before the fame, before the prism, before the dark side of the moon made Pink Floyd untouchable, there was a quieter record, a ghostly prelude called Obscured by Clouds. It didn't roar, it drifted. But hidden beneath that calm surface lies a truth far darker than anyone imagined. In early 1972, Pink Floyd was suspended between worlds. The wild psychedelia of the 60s had burned out, and the age of stadium perfection hadn't begun. Then came a request from French director Barbet Schroeder. Compose a soundtrack for his new film, La Vallée, the story of Western travelers searching for paradise deep in the New Guinea jungle. They said yes. Not because they were inspired, but because they needed to. They recorded at Château d'Hérouville, a small studio outside Paris. Just 2 weeks. No grand concept, no masterpiece in mind. Yet from this hurried side project came the seed of everything that would follow. David Gilmour later remembered. We'd had huge arguments about what exactly to do on those soundtrack albums. Some of us thought we should just put songs on them. Others thought we should make them one concept. That tension, freedom versus control, already hinted at the creative wars to come. The album begins with that throbbing hum, half machine, half heartbeat. Richard Wright recalled, "That was when we'd just got the first synthesizer ever invented. The very first time we used it was on Obscured by Clouds. It was a quiet revolution. The sound that would soon define the dark side of the moon was born here, in a film soundtrack few people noticed. The movie La Vallée promised a hidden paradise. What its travelers found was an illusion, a mirror of their own emptiness. The album reflects that same mirage. Pink Floyd were chasing meaning, direction, escape. And the valley they sought was already fading into mist. Roger Waters turned confusion into lyric. Free 4 sounds almost cheerful, but listen closer and it's laced with death and disillusion. You are young and life is long, and there is time to kill today. And then one day, you find 10 years have got behind you. That's the first time Pink Floyd truly stared into the void of mortality, the first step toward the philosophy of dark side. Nick Mason said later, "We were very pleased with our music, so I don't see where's the problem, if there's one." And in another interview, "I thought it was a sensational LP, actually." To him, it wasn't a throwaway soundtrack. It was a moment of raw honesty. That song, "What's the Deal?" feels like a weary letter from the road. Flash the readies. What's the deal? Got to make it to the next meal. A quiet admission that the dream has a price, that the band were already negotiating with fame before it truly hit them. Then comes Childhood's End, one of the last times Gilmour wrote both lyrics and music. All the fears never voiced say you have to make your final choice. It's more than a lyric. It's prophecy. The end of innocence. The realization that the dream is slipping away. You can hear time already forming in the background, the echo of what would soon become their masterpiece. You shout in your sleep. Even the album's cover tells the story. A blurry photograph of a man reaching for fruit in a tree, a camera accident that designer Storm Thorgerson decided to keep. The unreachable fruit, the distorted vision, the truth hidden just beyond focus. When asked about Obscured by Clouds, Gilmour shrugged. Good fun. Château d'Hérouville. We never categorized film soundtracks in the same way. That's why they never make it onto collections. And Roger Waters later admitted that the record quietly opened the American market for them. For all its bizarre overkill, the Floyd had no impact on the US until 1972's Obscured by Clouds was embraced by FM radio. So the so-called Forgotten album was actually their first American breakthrough, a success the band themselves hardly acknowledged. Obscured by Clouds became the shadow between two giants, metal and dark side of the moon. It's the sound of a band halfway between exploration and exhaustion, the last time they could record without the weight of legend pressing on them. Barbet Schroeder, the film's director, later said, "They were wonderful to work with. It was beautiful and fantastic music. He saw what the world overlooked, that in the fog of this soundtrack, the band captured something human, vulnerable, and fleeting." You can hear the future in these songs, the textures, the pulse, the melancholy that would soon circle back in Dark Side. Wish you were here, even the wall. But here it's still innocent, still searching. When you listen to Obscured by Clouds today, you can feel their youth dissolving in real time. The clouds in the title aren't just over the valley. They hang over the band itself. They're tired, inspired, unsure, and unknowingly standing at the edge of greatness. Gilmour once said, "I don't think any of us realized how close we were to something big. We were just working, trying things out." They didn't know they were about to create an album that would define an era. And that's the dark truth. The search for paradise never ends. And every valley, no matter how hidden, leads back to the same realization. Perfection is always obscured. Obscured by Clouds isn't a lost album. It's a confession, a document of a band on the brink, fumbling through fog toward immortality.
We'll break a bottle of wine.
Pink Floyd entered Château d'Hérouville with no completed songs, only fragments, moods, and ideas inspired by the rough scenes of La Vallée. What they brought with them were their instruments, a growing mastery of studio craft, and a willingness to work fast. Nick Mason later wrote, "We virtually scored the film as we watched it. Ideas became songs almost immediately. The process was entirely analog, a world of magnetic tape, razor blades, and real-time performance." Gilmour favored Neumann and AKG large diaphragm microphones on his acoustic guitars. Wright's organs were close-mic'd on the Leslie cabinet, whose whirling rotors produced the swirling tone heard throughout the album. David Gilmour described their early synth approach honestly. "The VCS-3 was unpredictable. You just had to go with what came out of it. This unpredictability is what gives the title track its drifting, electronic character, a proto-Dark Side atmosphere. Much of the album was recorded with the band playing together in the same room, amps bleeding, drums resonating, synths humming. The studio's wooden floors and stone walls created natural reverb, captured directly to tape." Nick Mason recalled, "We simply didn't have time to build things up slowly. Most of it was done live. The engineers used tape saturation to add warmth, manual vari-speed for subtle pitch shifts, physical tape edits for tightening song structures." Roger Waters once remarked on the Château's sonic imprint. "It had a good sound, very open, very human." The pulsing rhythm on the opening track is an early example of Floyd experimenting with electronic percussion, likely influenced by Moody Blues drummer Gray Medge's pioneering work. Mark Blake comments, "Electronic percussion appears here in a nascent form, a precursor to what they'd perfect on Dark Side." Despite the rush, everyone described the sessions as friendly, light, even fun. Richard Wright said, "There was a real sense of ease about the place. No pressure." Nick Mason added, "It was one of the last times we worked purely as a group, without too much introspection." These analog processes, raw, unfiltered, human, shaped the sound of Obscured by Clouds and fed directly into the emotional warmth of Dark Side of the Moon, recorded just months later.